Brother Hugh,
Yeah.
you know what's the craziest thing about wrestling nowadays?
Mm,
How,
man.
oh, you listen to something, somebody like, what you over there watching?
Sunday Night Heat came on. I was like,
Sunday night. And it's funny because just like Sunday Night Heat is not around, NXT UK may no longer exist, but its impact is still, it still leaves that impact. Not to be, confused with TNA impact, but its impact with WWE as a global wrestling scene, and it's undeniable the superstars that we have gotten. From groundbreaking matches to unforgettable title reigns, the brand left a legacy that continues to resonate today. So I'm gonna tell you, buckle up because it's
hmm
time to celebrate the legacy of NXT UK and its incredible championships. Let's
damn,
get to
he
it.
closed his eyes on that one.
I did because you said championships. You know what happened. But did you? Let's get to it. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to season three of Championship Culture. I'm Brandon the Guy, and he is none other than H to the A to the S to the T to the H to the E to the 3 to the R to the D. Brother, he. How's it going, brother?
Good, man. It's going very well.
You're looking at all 90s R&B or villain of New Jack City-ish with the black turtleneck and the gold chain. I'm not going to say anything else about it because normally by this time, what's the first thing we say when we come on air?
Every guy has a story.
Oh, not that. No. At the beginning of the show. That's at the end. The people can see that everybody has a story, but usually at the beginning of the show, usually by now we putting on screen a certain thing about it's Tuesday. You know what that means. But
hmm
guess what? I don't think that they're ready. They might not see it because they can hear it for themselves. Let's welcome our good friend, good supporter of the channel, brother Justin to the stage for me, please. Now you can tell them.
Ladies and
Tell them
gentlemen,
people.
I'm here.
Tell
How
them
to say? I'm
because
gonna get my Excalibur voice on AEW.
wait, he changed his shirt.
It's Tuesday, and you?
You changed your shirt.
Yeah, that quick. I had a stack of them right here. I ought to say like, oh, I think I wore the Undisputed Era shirt last time. It was like I'm change it up a little bit.
Look who at the top, Cody Raheem. Go ahead,
Brother
brother. Tell them your
Rose.
catchphrase. Let me hear your catchphrase.
I said, like I was saying, get my Excalibur voice on for AEW. It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. Championship culture right back here on YouTube.com with another great show.
Oh, there it
That,
is.
you got to say it a little faster. Accelerator. He'll take no breath what he said. He going to give you the
I
whole
ain't, I
rundown
ain't,
for this
mm-mm.
week, next week, the following week, and the pay per view all at one time.
It's
But
nice
brother
that
Justin,
they can give you a rundown of the next week's show, but can't build up a pay-per-view with
who?
good story.
No, not now, brother. We are here to celebrate NXT UK. We're not going to do no AEW wishful thinking. That's what we're going to say. I'm not going to say bashful because we want to wishful think when it comes to AEW. But we are here to celebrate NXT UK, right? And NXT UK was and you're going to laugh when I say this. And I'm going to take you back to the time. The time is December 2016. It's announced. There's going to be another NXT brand. Oh, I'm sorry. It was known as just, the United Kingdom. But then in 2018, it really started becoming known as NXT UK. But they said they were going to start a global expansion. And we knew it was going to be NXT, right? And this would have made the fifth brand for WWE. Because we had Raw, we had SmackDown, we had NXT, we had 205 Live, and now you're introducing NXT UK. A lot of people forgot about that. This was during the time where WWE was branching out because we already had the Cruiserweight Classic. That's how it birthed 205 Live, and then we had the global expansion when UK was the first place to do it. And what better place to give us some of the great wrestlers that we are celebrating today than to see some of them have their start in NXT UK? I'm gonna call it UK from now on because I don't want people to get confused and say, "Oh, that was NXT." We're gonna just call it UK at the time, right?
Right.
And it's insane because in a short amount of time, from 2016 first announced to 2022, a lot of these wrestlers that came through, a lot of these championships, a lot of these moments are shaping how we enjoy wrestling today. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but here at Championship Culture, when we say every belt has a story, this is what we mean how every belt has a story. Because if it wasn't for some of these belts, we probably wouldn't have some of the champions that we have today and some of the mega stars that we have today as well. Because some of these superstars have transcended beyond just I want to see them on a daily basis, so I must have. And when I get to the point, because we're gonna start off with probably one of the biggest stars probably to come from NXT UK. And I'm gonna ask you before I get to it, who do you think is one of the biggest stars that came from NXT UK? And I'm sorry, I'm just supposed to call it UK. Who do you think came from that UK brand of wrestling?
Well, automatically, two that comes on mind. How to say one man, one woman. Got a man, which we're gonna definitely get into later. The Ring General, Gunther, and AKA Walter back then, and then probably the most over woman in probably the entire industry right now, Miss Rhea Ripley.
Bingo. So let's talk about that, right? Because the NXT UK Women's Championship, it kind of laid the foundation for the women's division because NXT was already there, but this is after it had already been established. You saw that this division was starting to rise. You start to see stars from the Mae Young Classic start to be part of this division. You had people like Rhea Ripley, Tony Storm, Kylie Ray / Alva Fire, um, Miyako's. Why can I always
Mako
mess this up?
Satomura.
Satomura. Thank you. I was
Got
struggling.
you.
I was like,
I got you,
Satomura,
bro.
right? The Wendy's gonna kill me. But we saw these women from the Mae Young Classic translate over almost like flawlessly to this division of this brand of UK, right? And
Hmm.
it influenced what a global superstar, and I'm gonna just say superstar, not women's wrestler or male wrestler, a global superstar is, right? And we could
Right.
talk about Rhea Ripley arguably being the biggest star from this brand because we've seen her, right? But before we get into the title, let's talk about Rhea's Ripley reign, right? The inaugural champion. Is that what helped spark the Eradicator, Mommy, all of these things that we say? Was this the right person to? She didn't win the Mae Young Classic, but she was the inaugural champion for NXT UK. Let's talk about that.
So I think that during that time, I think a lot of people was expecting Tony Storm to be the inaugural women's champion, including me. Let's say I was a real big fan of hers. So it was a surprise that Rhea Ripley was the inaugural NXT UK women's champion, but she was so good and um like she surprised a lot of people, like, because Tony was really really over, and Rhea definitely came in and showed like, hey, I'm deserve to be here too. Like, I deserve this championship and as much recognition as he did, and she definitely made an impact, and she definitely made a fan out of me.
So, and then you say that because I'm a mess with you a little bit because in that first
Hmm.
tournament, it was almost like a who's who of the women wrestlers for this brand, right? And I remember
Yeah.
the semifinals. I didn't remember. I couldn't remember like myself saying this person is an overall favorite because Tony Storm had won the Mae Young Classic, and it was a thing where I'm like, okay, you got Dakota Kai, Rhea Ripley, and that says Dakota Kai in her earlier stages, Rhea Ripley with blonde hair, and it wasn't the same Rhea Ripley from the first Mae Young Classic with the blonde hair hanging, the ring gear. This is leather, metaled up Rhea Ripley. Let's just call it that, right? But then you had Jenny and Tony Storm, and I remember saying, I don't know who's going to win this. Then it wound up being Tony Storm and Rhea Ripley, kind of like a rematch from the Mae Young Classic, right? Hugh, was you expecting Rhea to beat the winner of the Mae Young Classic, or did you expect it to be Tony Storm on a clean sweep? And the reason I'm saying it because sometimes we build these stories where this wrestler can't beat this wrestler.
Well, at the time, Justin said, Tony was 100% over. Crowd loved her. So I was honestly thinking that Tony was going to take it. She had it all at that point in time. She was the top star, or, one of the top stars at that point in time. So, or rising stars at that point in time. So I definitely thought Tony was going to take it over Rhea.
And because of a tape delay, and I just want to take everybody back, she won it in August of 18, but it didn't air until like November. So it looked like her title reign was much shorter because Rhea lost it to Tony Storm. But in defeat, Rhea was elevated right to the NXT brand. And then we start to see other stars from the tournament, other stars from NXT UK, and one of them who became the one to watch, in my opinion. And I challenge anybody, go back and watch Kylie Ray versus Tony Storm for the NXT UK Women's Championship, because that's how we got a 649-day reign. Now, granted, that 649-day reign was during some COVID time, but every match that Kylie Ray had, she let you know, I'm here to hang. I'm here to hang with the big. I don't want to say the big dogs because that sound like you're talking about Roman, but let it be known that I'm here for this. You know what I mean? And it was
Hmm.
insane because I don't think we ever paid attention to her until she got that belt, because she really wasn't in the spotlight. She was having a few matches here and there. But did you think that shaped the identity of this division? That these are women that's like on par with Raw and SmackDown. If not, let's pay attention. Let's look at them. It didn't feel like a developmental. It felt like a we're here to compete. What say you? Do you think it shaped their identity?
Talk to me here.
No, no, I was
You,
talking to you, Justin.
Oh, okay,
uh,
yeah. So, nah, so
now you
like,
pass that on real quick.
yeah. Now I was saying, trying to make sure, but yeah, like, so a lot of what the women in NXT UK was like really, really big names on the independent scene. So like this was the time like I think that British wrestling started to get like a lot of mainstream exposure because of NXT UK. And then if you even go before that, if you remember like What Culture Pro Wrestling, like that's what really like put the UK scene on the map. And you've seen a lot of, because I remember Kaylee Ray from WCPW. So a lot of these women were already out there like really working, and then like they were putting on some fantastic matches. Like the few times that I did really get to watch like that match from Takeover Cardiff that you talked about with Tony Storm when she won the title, like they were really in there working. So I feel like they could easily hang with like everybody that like your Charlotte Flairs. Who else is on top of this? This is what 2017, 2018. So like your Charlottes, your
Yeah,
Beckys. Shoot, I even
Bailey.
get them in there with
Um,
Ronda
Bailey
Rousey,
Stark.
like because Ronda Rousey was like peak in 2018, but like yeah, they could really get in there and hang with a lot of them.
and remember, the finals of the Mae Young Classic was actually at Evolution, so that puts you in the time frame of where we were at during this time. And you had women. And yes, granted, we're going to get to this because there's only four champions technically. You can count Mandy Rose as the last champion, but
I count Mandy Rose.
okay, I'm saying you can count Mandy Rose as the last champion, but whenever you
Hmm.
unify, I really don't think that you're the champion because it's just
Right.
whatever the new whatever they call that belt now. Yeah, you won the belt, but it is gone. So to me, it's like it kind of loses the lineage, stops right there, right? But there was a champion before we got it unified, and I'm a down this horse. I think when they unified this belt, I think the wrong person won.
Really?
Are
Yes,
you
I don't think
serious?
Mandy Rose should have won because it was without a doubt. Miko Satomura was probably pound for pound one of the best wrestlers,
That's true.
and for her not to go over to keep that global exposure of what NXT UK was, and to keep that global exposure, if nothing but just for that moment, to let her be that one because she had carried it with grace, style, and everything like that, and it was perfect. 451 days as champion, and then she is unified with Mandy Rose.
Well, I
Do
think
you
that was
think
that
that
was a part of time. That was a part of time where Miko. I feel like that was the right move because I feel like Miko right at that time she kind of like disappeared. To be honest, it kind of was like it was kind of like her goodbye
okay?
before her goodbye. Because if you
That's
notice,
what.
as soon as she lost it, you haven't seen you. She might have had like one match. I think she had one match against Roxanne, right?
Yeah,
Was
I
it
think
Roxanne?
so. I believe
Roxanne
so.
Perez. And then you didn't see from her or hear from her ever again. To be honest, until about a year or so later, when she announced she's getting ready to do her retirement tour or whatnot. So at that point in time, Mandy Rose was one of the hottest acts out there, or one of the hottest wrestlers out there. So it made sense for them to kind of like go with Mandy Rose, to unify it, and they were moving on to that 2.0 phase. So it made sense at that point in time.
Yeah, and I get it when you say we were kind of in the 2.0 phase, but that would have been a
Yeah,
perfect time to keep a global exposure. But now that you put it in that way, I get why Mandy. I just think somebody like that, and it's crazy because when you think about how to continue keeping eyes on the product, if Mandy Rose would have lost at that moment, could she have got it back? Because we have seen a Braun Breaker lose it and get it back. You know what I
yeah,
mean? We have seen a lot, and we'll get to the tag teams. A lot of things that was happening during that time. Where it was not necessarily high shot, but part of the booking was, yeah, I lost it, but I got my belt back. You know what I mean? That it could have been a thing, and that's I guess that's what I'm leaning for. But because it was 2.0, keep on going with Mandy. And I think
I
overall it
get
just
what you're
bothered
saying.
me that
I get what
And
you're
plus,
saying.
since they were like integrating
But
the like they were like, because I think that was when they was like officially like shut NXT UK down, and they was like
yeah,
integrating them into NXT USA. So yeah, if Mandy was already like the top woman on the brand, so it made the most sense for her to be the one to unify the championships. And I think if honestly, if she would have wound up staying, like she could be like a real like mainstay. Like she probably would have had even more dominant run in NXT, and then probably came back up to the main roster and could definitely like be one of like the top names on the main roster.
yeah, yeah.
now
I agree.
here's your favorite part. You ready for this? This is what we talk
Just
about.
the tip.
Everybody has a story. No, not
Uh,
just the tip. We talk about everybody has a story, right? And I'm going to say this, and I said it because this is one of my favorite designs, one of my top five favorite designs, right? NXT UK Championship, no matter if it's men's or women's, and it's crazy because when you look at this design, this was during the time that all of the network logo belts were prominent. White strap was for the women, black was for the men, except for on Raw Smack for the Universal title, it was always on a red or blue strap, but we knew that the white strap was for the women, right? So this belt had so much character to it. When you look at it, it draws your eyes and says, I'm a big deal. I'm a champion. The coat of arms on the front, NXT logo in the middle, the women's right there, so you know it's the women's title, even though it's on a white, and the removable side plates, and they had that extra floor pattern and the diamond on I'm sorry, the triangle facing inward. It just draws your eyes to this belt all the way around. Brother here, were you
are those
satisfied when
rhinestones?
they are just like they are on every other championship, right? Brother he was
Yeah.
you satisfied when this belt debuted and took shape and became, almost the equivalent to the men? Were you satisfied with this design?
Look at it. Look at it, bro. That's all I can say, man. Look at it. It's beautiful. So absolutely,
Well, I'm gonna ask you this
absolutely.
because
That good.
if it's beautiful, did this make you feel like this was the right belt on her? And I think Rhea's the only person to hold all of the championships in WWE technically, all the women's titles, because she was NXT UK, NXT,
Yeah, that's true.
SmackDown, Raw, World Champion. I mean,
Only
and
thing she need
tag.
left is
The
the
Divas
other
belt.
women's championship, the one that was it Nia Jax got. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
the last one that she did, and she got every
Oh
last one
yeah,
of them.
yeah.
hmm and that's what it was a Triple H. We see it today. She's definitely a Triple H girl, and this belt just looked perfect. It looked like this is the big deal for that brand, right? And it just
Hmm.
looked perfect. It looked like it was a major championship. It wasn't a color splattered championship. It was
Come on,
a
man.
more
Why you
regal
guys
looking.
slander the color
Uh,
splatter, bro?
I'm just saying. I'm a
It's a
I'm gonna leave
it's a
that
nice
alone
looking
because
belt.
I will say the women's championship in NXT is the only one that the color splatter worked for. I'd say I
it
ain't
was a
like it
white
on
strap.
the black strap men's. Yeah, I say plus it's the
hmm
white strap. I say you can't beat a white strap.
See, strap matters, bro.
Now, it does. The strap does matter, but you know what?
Hmm.
And when you talk about championships, there's more than just a belt, right? Sometimes we
Hmm.
get crowns. Sometimes we get trophies. Sometimes we get awards, but sometimes we get a cup. And I've said this before. If you got to explain the rules to me, I'm probably going to be less vested, right? I'm talking about the Heritage Cup. This was unique to NXT UK, and then they brought it over to the regular NXT, right? The uniqueness of the Heritage Cup is deep rooted in British roots, right? And stars like A Kid, Noam Dar, Tyler Bate, the 205 live guys minus Tyler Bate kind of were going after this belt, right? It was reintroduced to the world as like almost like a pure wrestling type technique, and it had influence in those type of styles. But when you look at the rules of this, what drives me insane, when you have to remember, oh, this is the type of stuff, right? Matches can only be it's going to be 6 rounds, 3 minutes each, right? 20 seconds in between. It's a 2 out of 3 falls. Falls can be won by pinfall, submission, or count out. Once a fall occurs, the round ends. So if I ping you within 30 seconds, we're going to have 20 seconds to rest, then here's the next round. The match ends when a wrestler has won 2 falls, but we could go 3 rounds and nobody ever fall. So it kind of can add to excitement, but kind of like how the speed championship is only 3 minutes long. Think about this: watching 6 speed matches back to back. That's what the Heritage Cup feels like, right? And brother Justin,
What's up?
did the Heritage Cup create a unique style in storytelling, or did it frustrate you as a fan? Because you got to remember what the rules are.
I mean, it wouldn't frustrate me so much to the point, because I always like it's a new concept, so like I'll appreciate it and like welcome it for what it is. But it was a little too gimmicky for me. Like I would have rather had them like, instead of doing that, or if they had that, like kind of they could have just reintroduced like a mid-card championship to that. So like if me, I would have personally would have rechristened the European Championship and made that as a mid-card title for NXT UK.
Here we go. That was my argument on.
So he prefers
Not to say
belts
that's
over trophies.
last week's show spawned this week's show. Let's say that title would have been perfect for this brand
As the mid card.
Mm-hmm.
So
now they can still keep the Heritage Cup, not to say as like a little sideshow, because y'all big Ring of Honor guys. So like what they had the world title or the television title. I guess this was somewhat similar to the Pure Championship. Like how does the Pure Championship work? Like it is like similar, or
it's very similar.
Oh, okay.
You could only have so many rope breaks, and then after so many rope breaks, you just on your own. It was all kinds of stuff, but it's crazy because when you say that, I feel like the Heritage Cup should have been centered around like a takeover or around a big event that they win it. Kind of like how New Japan does the G1 Classic or the New Japan Cup. All of these type of things that only happen at an event, and that winner holds it to next year. Here, at one of the wrestling things we go to at MCW, they always have the Shamrock Cup, which is held once a year, and the winner has it, and then they keep it for a year, and then they technically defend it the next year to kind of keep some excitement going. I just don't like that it's kind of like lugged around like a championship, because it influences technical wrestling, but I feel like it kind of deters from what we're used to seeing. So it's a little different, right? And a lot of people don't realize that A Kid is actually Axiom. So it's like, A Kid is Axiom. He was repackaged as Axiom.
That's something new every day. I ain't know that.
Yeah, the very first Heritage Cup champion was A Kid, and to not anybody's favorite, he said Heritage Cup was saved by Noam Dar, how it equal more value than a Norfolk. Now you stop it.
Hold up, no, let him cook. I ought to say, in the rare times that I did get to sit down and watch like current NXT, like Noam Dar had me rolling around that Heritage Cup. Like I remember when he was like in a vegetative state just because he didn't have the trophy. So they was lugging him around in a wheelchair and they stole the trophy for him. And then he just came back to life as nothing happened. Like that, I'd say that is his cup. Like I love Noam Dar with that Heritage Cup.
And you kind of attach him to it because of the small lineage that it had. And it did take a little while. It disappeared for a little bit, then it was reintroduced. And the thing about it, when you reintroduce it to a new audience, it's always kind of strange because it was around from the end of NXT UK, like around the 2020 to 2022. Then it kind of took a small hiatus, came back in 23 to currently. And when you said about Noam Dar, I think because he was on that platform of NXT, we were able to see what he can do, because even when A-Kid lost it to Tyler Bate, it was like, okay, it made sense, right? But then Noam Dar had it, but then he lost it to Mark Coffey, which nobody understood why, because it was like Mark Coffey came out of nowhere because then Noam Dar got it back. Rebranded NXT, regular NXT, Nathan Frazier, ironically, right? Then Noam Dar, Charlie Dempsey. Charlie Dempsey dropped it to Mouth and Open Mike's favorite, Tony D'Angelo, back to Baby
Oh
Regal
yeah. Yep.
as Hugh likes to call him, right?
Yep.
And these are all technical wrestlers because Tony D showed you he can work any style. He can do anything. Charlie Dempsey is definitely rooted in this type of style, right? Noam Dar can go because we've seen him 205 Live, NXT UK. We've seen him with Alicia Fox. We've seen him by himself. We've seen him with Metaphor. He's definitely adaptable. Not to say Joe Coffey wasn't. It just was. Didn't feel like he. I mean, I'm sorry, Mark Coffey didn't feel like he fit in with that style, but it worked. So out of
Yeah.
all of those names, brother Hugh, and this is going to sting you. Who did you enjoy most with the Heritage Cup?
You know what's crazy? Because he's annoying, but I love to watch him wrestle. Because I recently watched the first match, him versus Pete Dunne
Really?
for the UK title, the inaugural championship or whatnot. It was Noam Dar. And after watching him in that match and watching a couple of other his matches over the weekend, I was just kind of like, dang, this dude can really go. I can't stand his gimmick now.
I say a
It's
lot of
very
people
annoying.
sleep on Noam Dar. Like he
But
proves that he's entertaining and that he can go.
yeah, he's
I
very
remember watching
entertaining.
him at 205 Live.
Very.
It seemed like he always had those. Oh, that was kind of like don't fight me when I say this. Kind of like the original JD McDonough, Jordan Devlin, short hair. When you didn't realize that his head,
Right.
he looked like a huge bobblehead. But that
Right.
Had
one
that
was very
GameCube
entertaining.
dome.
Hey,
He was
that thing.
entertaining at the beginning, and when we talk about these people, it is celebrate the legacy of NXT UK. These are the people
Mhm.
that we're still. If it wasn't for their time doing this, we probably wouldn't be enjoying them now because we can always go back and say, "Oh man, you don't know about this match? Oh, you didn't remember that?" You know, and it's always one of those things that you're like, "Well, that was good. Oh yeah, that was a good one." But the match rules is just always what throws me off, and I hate to say that because I wanted to love everything about it. I just couldn't. I just couldn't couldn't do it. But I will
Now,
tell you what I did.
which one can you tolerate more? The Heritage Cup rules or the Pure Championship rules? With
I
Pure Cup.
think the I think the Heritage Cup because remember the pure championship rules. I felt like they always had different rules. And remember when we were watching it live, we were discussing. All right, wait a minute. They didn't. Oh, they can do that. No, they can't. Oh God, this is still going. I felt like because we were live and we didn't get to
Yeah,
see it on
we didn't
screen
get
with
to
all
watch
the
it
rules,
live.
it was like, what
Yeah.
is happening here?
Yeah, because I feel like for something like that, you definitely need the commentators like kind of explaining what's going on.
Yeah.
hmm Like the
'Cause-
first time I think we was at ROH and they did a 20 count, we were confused. We're like, why did the Belden ring? Oh, they got
Yeah.
to 20. You know what I mean? So it's like little things like that. You're like, what is happening here? You know what I mean? But I will say, as much as I'm not a fan of like the cups or like the other championships, because I feel like it should be for that moment, like the King of the Ring is a combination of that one match and they get something out of it for being that. The world's greatest Royal Rumble, he still has that belt, never been defended. You know what I mean? We get stuff like now. What were they? What was the last thing they just did in Saudi when they were the champion
The
of
crown
champions?
jewel.
Yeah, the crown jewel champion. We're not going to see another one of those till next year. So I feel like that's what those should be when you can see it frequently. It kind of takes it away, like when they did the Owen Hart Cup. You know,
Yeah.
Owen Hart tournament. You
That
only
makes
see it
sense.
during that time. It works for that, and then until the next one gets it. You know, but I just feel like head four sides of the ring, the champion should be in the last match because they're defending their championship, and they shouldn't have to go through a whole tournament again. That's the perks of being a
So
champion.
so would you have preferred maybe like a light heavyweight championship or a cruiserweight championship as opposed to the Heritage Cup? Or maybe you could still have the Heritage Cup and just have it seasonal, like you said, or sporadically pop up, or maybe
I
like
was
an
So
annual
I would
tournament or
say
whatnot.
that I like the idea of having the Heritage Cup as a seasonal tournament type of thing. Like that would definitely work. But as far as like the light heavyweights, like didn't they have the cruiserweight championship over there at one point? Because JD
I was
McDonough
gonna
was the
say,
cruiserweight champion
Right,
for a
right.
good little minute.
when 205 Live started to dissolve, they
Hmm.
put that with the
I ain't no
NXT
shit in there.
UK, but then it came to NXT. But it was a lot of things, remember back in COVID, people were getting stuck and
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
come back. And that's how Santos Escobar um, became the interim cruiserweight champion. And then when Jordan Devlin came back, they had the match to unify him. So I do like a cup when it's for that moment, I should say, and not for. I shouldn't see it every week. I should feel like for instance, the Continental Classic. That belt keeps being defended, but now we have the Continental Classic tournament. Give me one or the other. I can't see it being defended
Oh,
every
my
week.
fault. My
You
fault.
okay? You can't see it defended every week and then still give me the tournament because what's the point of the tournament and you want to defend it again the next month? So I got to go
Yeah.
through all of these rounds to get a
Yeah,
title
that's it.
shot, but
I'm
it's somebody
completely
just had a
lost on
title
the
shot.
Continental Classic. Like, because if you're the champion, like, shouldn't you just automatically be in the finals and you face the winner of the tournament?
That's how
Like,
I feel
just
about
that
it.
should be an automatic ticket to the finals if you already had the championship.
So according to Nitram, he says the best part of the cup is that it stands out in a world of titles, but they look so weird carrying it to the ring. Like the Andre the Giant Battle Royal winner, they get nothing. But we knew it was at WrestleMania every year. And women's Battle Royal winner, we already got the Royal Rumble while we got that. But as I digress, before we get
It's
too
just
far off
it's
track,
it's just weird to me because like I feel like a trophy belongs in like actual sports as opposed to wrestling. I feel like we're so like we were trained to want belts in wrestling. You see what I'm saying? That's how we were just conditioned. So it just looks weird to have a trophy. You carrying a big trophy around it every time you come out to the ring. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but
no, that's a good point
That
because
makes
we
sense
are
because
conditioned.
imagine if they did have to lug around the Andre the Giant Memorial Trophy. I mean, they had to lug that around on a hand dolly.
hey,
Like that's a lot of metal right there.
and it is. It is.
They take their picture and that's it. We had nothing for them
Right in the
the
trophy
rest of the
case.
time. And with any brand, you always have a men's division, you have a women's division, and oftentimes we will get a tag team division, right? And
Hmm.
this did not disappoint when it came to the tag team, right? Because the UK scene for tag teams was probably one par with what we were seeing in the United States, but we just
Hmm.
didn't know these people because they were huge in the UK scene, right? And if they emphasize storytelling to try to get you to realize who it was, but also that they can be a cohesive team. They had a lot. Their move sets was different because they had a lot of tag team moves. Imagine if we could classic example Team 3D. We knew about the 3D, right? The Dudleys. We knew they hit the 3D. Um,
Yep.
so, but when it came to these other NXT UK tag teams, they had a huge move set that was unique to them, right? And we got introduced to, I love the names, people like Mustache Mountain, Gallows, Pretty Deadly, one of my favorite. Um, and this was the only Mustache Mountain who Trent Seven turns on all his opponents. All of his partners. He turns on everybody. So don't ever tag with him because he's probably going to turn on you. Um, but this was the first time. There's my guys, Pretty Deadly, who
Look at them
are
championships.
comedic gold. Um,
Beautiful.
if you want to see a good match, just type in NXT UK Pretty Deadly and just watch any of their matches. Um, but unlike the Cruiserweight Classic, where we were seeing people come over to NXT UK, or the Mae Young Classic, we really didn't have a tournament for these um, tag belts on the network. We just had um, a fatal. I think it was only a 6-team tournament, but I know that it came down to Mustache Mountain and the Grizzled Young Veterans to be the first champions, right? And when you think about it, we know who the Grizzled Young Veterans are. They left WWE. They got their 3-week push in AEW. I think they are a great team. I think that they
They are.
are a great team that want all of it right now. They need everything right now. They don't want to wait for anything. And you see that in their wrestlers like, no, we are the greatest. Dude, you gotta prove that you're the greatest. Slow down. Let us enjoy you. You get what I'm saying? Let us enjoy the fact that you're a great team, because they are. And I'm gonna just say this. when Tyler Bate didn't sign with WWE, and we'll get to this when we get to United. I mean, what you call it, came back, and he kind of was relegated to the NXT Heritage Cup, and then he got a tag team partner, right? But it was always an emotional thing when he was on screen because you wanted to see him win. And to see them win against a Pretty Deadly, who were the foes, the slimy heels, all of this type of stuff, it was very emotional. And this made him one of the only Grand Slam or Triple Crown champions in NXT because he won all of their championships that were available. Do you think that putting Tyler Bate with a tag team was the right move, or should we have kept him as a singles competitor? And we're gonna get to that why. I'm gonna give you my answer when we get to the men's. Was this the right move for him?
Not to say it was prior to the WWE UK thing, like because I think him, Trent Seven, and Pete Dunne later, like they were all in the stable, right? There was British Strong Style. So I don't know if he was already like a tag team wrestler before he transitioned in, but I mean, if he was with somebody that he had history with, so it was kind of like a seamless transition. So he was somebody that could work well as a single star and as a tag team star.
But we had all these great tag teams. We didn't need them in the tag team. We had Grizzly Young Vets. We had Gallows. We had Flash Morgan. Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews. We had Pretty Deadly. We had up and coming stars like Ashton and Oliver. We had these other titles. I mean, other champions. And then we did something weird where we let Brooks and Jensen win the. Brooks, Jensen, and Briggs win the NXT UK tag titles and bring them back to NXT. So it was like you had teams, you had them there. We could have kept them separate because Trent Seven can go on his own, so can Tyler Bate. But it felt like it was such an emotional thing, even when they won the belts from Undisputed Era. And that was just they got him and got him back, right? He kind of became the underdog, right? And not saying that he valued the belt, but we had such great tag teams with great chemistry. Do you think that WWE should have took a look at these tag teams and learned something for their Raw, SmackDown, even NXT tag teams?
Absolutely. I say we all know who was in charge of WWE at that time. So, and tag team wrestling wasn't a priority. Like, even though you had a lot of great tag teams on the main roster, you had Rival, Usos, New Day. Shoot, actually, I think that's it. Let's say they definitely could have needed more teams. I was thinking that's the three off the top of the head I could think of because a lot of them was like makeshift tag teams. Because like I remember like the Bar. Let's say can't forget the Bar. But like the random ones like Rusev and Nakamura, like they had a lot of thrown together tag teams and like 4 or 5 legit actual teams. So they definitely could have took from like NXT and NXT UK because tag team wrestling was like a big attraction during that time period in NXT.
All right, but then here's the thing. You had Pretty Deadly transition over to NXT almost seamlessly, right? Got the belts. Even people might remember that program. I know we don't want to talk about New Day now. They might remember that program with New Day when they exchanged the belts and got them back. But they were the actual NXT tag champions who unified the NXT UK belt against Jensen and Briggs. And it was insane because you had 2 established tag teams on both brands with the wrong belts. And that the right team won because it put the focus on Pretty Deadly. If you want to see some funny vignettes, just go back to watch Pretty Deadly vignettes when they during NXT.
I believe it. I love them. They're hilarious.
It does not disappoint. I
wish they would get more TV time now, but
so get them with the spear fingers.
Yes, boys, as they would call. But yeah, at bonus round, do y'all remember their original name?
No.
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's fine.
What you got for
It's
me?
okay. No, I just wanted to say it because I couldn't remember it either.
I
know it wasn't. I thought it was something else before it was Own Prince and
no. I think they had different names. I think. I say I don't like were they still called Pretty Deadly, or are you talking about like their actual like ring names?
What was their ring names at first?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay, maybe it was always Own Prince. or they were talking about changing their names. I know
I'm
that.
saying I knew they had. Let's say because I was actually watching a video like right before we had came on. I say I saw what their old names were, but I like wasn't like pinpointing it because like I'm so used to calling them Elton Prince and Kid Wilson. And say I saw their old names, just couldn't remember them. Like I thought you were talking about like the old actual team name.
Because what you call it, Imperial changed their name because Giovanni Vinci and what you call it were
Marcel
who was Giovanni?
Barbell and
Thank you,
Fabian Eichner.
and then who was the third one that was? I mean, the fourth one that was
Alexander
different.
Wolf
Thank you, Alexander
and
Wolf was
Walter. Yeah.
yeah, but Alexander Wolf because at first they had the brawler guy.
So it was
It'll come to me.
Lewis Howley, and Sam Stoker.
That's their names from the indie scene, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was
Both of
trying to
them.
think what was that names in the what you call it? Because WWE will change the name in a heartbeat.
Yeah, it doesn't say. That's all I see.
Okay. So
If anybody knows, go ahead and drop it in the
jump in
comments.
the comments. I can't let you
I
get
just
away
want to see the
without.
belt. That's
I
all I
know
want
you
to
do.
see.
This belt has been seen
Look at
on
that
other
gorgeous piece of
episodes of
metal.
Championship Culture, but I'm gonna just say this: everybody has a story. When it came to this belt, it always seemed like they kept their coat of arms front and center, right? You can see it on there, but now they did something unique. They gave you two globes, and it's two parts of the same globe. You see one portion of it on the top, one on the bottom. I'm trying to make sure that the light's not glaring because I want you to see how beautiful this is. Let's start on the side plate. The floor pattern around this. Now I don't have anybody's side plates on. I kept the original one there because the blue just works. Um, the bars they did something different. See them red stones and the black paint on the ends. And this belt does have a few red stones. If anybody knows me, I love me a good red stone. And it has 5 on the center plate, and they're strategically placed. But it says UK Tag Team at the top, and then champions at the bottom. The coat of arms, you can see the horse and the
Uh,
lion on there. NXT straight down the middle. I don't know why WWE you want to keep doing this, so we don't have to get new belts for our tag belts. So, and the other
it looks
side
clean
plate
though. I
exactly
like
the
that.
same. It does, but this belt does not have a tip. It
Oh,
doesn't have a
boo.
tip.
Boo.
But this is what's unique about the belt. It has almost like a raised pattern when the belt turns to where the side plate. So I don't know if you can see it that well.
Hmm.
And it's all even on the main plate. It's a raised leather portion. I don't know if you can see it right
It's
in
like a
here.
second layer. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like even though you have the regular, I'm trying to show you, even though you have
Okay,
the
I can
regular
see
strap
it.
here,
Yeah.
you have a raised portion, and it's kind of like hard to duplicate this. And
Hmm.
it's it's very sturdy. Like it's not one of those flimsy one. I'm sorry, that's the other thing. It actually says NXT in the snap box. I mean, before you get to the snap box, so there's no wasted
They're
space
probably
really
put
on
using
this. I'm sorry, it does have a
yeah.
tip, a plain tip. That's what I want to say to you.
29. Look at
Plain tip,
see.
plain, but it has
It's all
NXT on the
good.
side. All right. And just like anyone else, the belt bag just said NXT on it. But the thing that was unique about this belt, it kind of looks like almost like a buzzsaw or just a floor pattern around it, around the main plate. And it was just enough
Hmm.
to say, I'm an important champion. I'm on par. If I saw this as just a title, I would think this was the world championship. If it wasn't for the
It's
globes
that
on the
gorgeous.
side,
Like it could pass for a world title.
right? The 5 stones strategically placed with the additional 2 stones on the sidebar. It just looked like it was made to be a big deal. What was your first impression when you saw this belt, Hugh? Because I know a lot of belts have to grow on you after you see them for a while or after they've been retired. What was your first impression
Hmm.
when you saw this belt?
I mean, it's a beautiful design, but me for some reason I'm not a fan of the round main plate with
Really?
titles. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's just me. But that particular title, I like it. I
Try
like
not
it.
to look the
I love
glare.
everything about it as far as the design, the etching, the tooling on like everything. It just makes sense, and it pops. I love the raised layer. That's unique for that type of belt. Yeah, like
Is that dual
it's
plated or
perfect.
no?
It's only dual plated where the NXT is. the gold
Right.
base, and then it has black. WWE does a weird thing nowadays with their belts, and it's hard to describe. They really don't paint. They have plastic inserts on a lot of these, and you don't
Mhm.
realize it's plastic inserts until it pops out. Um, so a lot of times when you see that shiny looking black or red, like on the swooshes of all the network logo, those swooshes were plastic pieces. They weren't painted. And then in here, where all the black is, it's a lot of plastic. So it kind of, so I guess it won't fade, and it gives it a different
Yeah.
shine. I'm
And
trying to
that's
get
one
it
of the
that the
main
light
things I
doesn't get.
like.
So it's
That's
still
part.
gorgeous
These are
though,
the
either
things
way.
as far as that
Mm.
main plate. I love how the NXT is silver and it pops out like that. Like it
And it's in
complements the
between the
gold.
world.
Like
Mhm.
it's not too much. You know, it's not too little. It's just perfect amount of silver to complement the gold. That's surrounding.
WWE, see how the blue works on it when you got gold? See how the
It
blue
does. The blue
worked? It
pops.
only took you how many years to do it for the
Hmm.
what you call it? And I purposely left it like this because I was like, it just looks good like this. This looks like if it didn't say tag team or just an NXT, I'm sorry, UK champion, I would feel like this is a world title. Yes, it should be a little bit bigger, but it's just the same size as the ROH World Championship, the silver one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Justin, like
Yes,
it,
sir.
hate it, wish it came back. What's your thoughts on the belt?
I loved it. I to say it was definitely a fresh design from like what we were already at because we had the look of these for so long, and like we were so used to this design for so long, and like it was a nice little like refresher to see like different colors, like a not colored strap, and then like the design it was just gorgeous. So like I really think NXT UK really had before the current wave of championships that we got right now, they had the best titles in probably not even just the WWE. I think the whole industry.
It was
Mm.
like Triple H said, "Hold my beer, watch what I do."
Said, let me cook
It was like,
more metal.
hmm definitely did. And on his side base, I love that he does this with the globes, and it's more prominent now. If you look at the World Championship, he started with the cruiserweight belts and all of these type belts. The globes that he used doesn't have continents on it. It's just like a plain globe, so that way whatever sits on it, you can still tell it's the world, but it's just that instead of it being like not being sensitive to other people's country, like oh, it's only the United States behind it, oh, it's only Europe, it's only Australia, it's only nope, it's literally just a globe. But on the main plate, you can see the different parts of it. So, mm. Well, Hugh, I
Yes.
think it's time for a word from our sponsors. What say you, sir?
Let's get to it.
You can download all of our audio content anytime on Spotify.
Did that say Wednesday at 10:30? The restaurant now?
Wednesday,
Is that what that said?
10:30. That's what it
Oh,
said.
Wednesdays at 10:30. Flagship show.
I don't know about you. I'm getting a little hungry, so I'm gonna hit this too.
You want to eat like a champion? Check out Mr. Fries, located on 419 York Road in Tulsa, Maryland. If you go in and just use the promo code championship, you'll be able to eat like a champion. Once again, save 10% by going over to Mr. Fries and using the promo code championship. Make sure you tell them that the championship culture boys sent you. And remember, every belt has a story.
Yep.
So I
Telling
got
Everybody
a
you, them
remember that.
confession.
fries got my attention, man. I would say
I
I'm
don't
at the
know
slide
about
around
you.
695.
I've been working on my big back. You know what I'm saying? And them
Listen,
fries was hitting
that's
early
why I can't
today.
fit a couple of my shirts. That's exactly why. A
Shit, I
couple of
just
my
had a
shirts have gotten
cheesesteak and fries
progressively
earlier
smaller.
today.
And look, and Hugh, I sent you the picture when I was there. I was like, ooh, look at this. Ooh, bacon. I was like, yep. I got the bacon ranch. What was it? The bacon ranch something fries. I was like, oh, this is definitely going straight to my gut. But guess what?
Oh
It
my
was
gosh.
so worth it. Small people like you can have it a couple times. And guess what? It won't be my last time going. That's all I'm gonna say about that. It was definitely, definitely good. We're
Yeah, I
brothers.
had a cheesesteak. It's a little spot up here in Bell Camp that's up near me. They got Riverside Pizzeria. They got some of the best cheesesteaks I've ever had in my life. I say
I
y'all
used to go
ever
there.
up in Hartford County? And
Yeah,
say
I used to
definitely
live in
slide up there.
Edgewood. I used to
That's
go
where I
there.
live. That's where I live now.
Or do you?
Hmm.
Them
I
in
got
Box
family
Hill
over there,
Pizzeria,
so.
because Box Hill is the one that do the
You,
decent crab
I've
cakes.
never gone over there. I've passed that place so many times.
Oh, well,
Apparently, they
That's
got some
uh,
bomb
take a
crab
chance.
cakes there.
isn't
Hmm
that Michael Anthony Stomping Grounds?
It is bigger, better,
Better.
stronger.
So, hmm
Brothers,
Michael.
we come to the point of this show where this is where it's gonna get real, right?
Yep.
Because with the announcement we already talked about the announcement of NXT, right? We talked about,
Mm.
when that announcement comes, it was kind of starting to show the world that, they created NXT UK, but now the championship was established, is right? Establishing superstars. It's establishing this is a brand. This is, and I'm gonna keep saying the fifth brand because we had Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live, and now NXT UK, right? Um, Global superstars that we had heard rumors about, and we heard if you ever had YouTube and you just went online and you saw it, and like you said, Russell Talk, What Culture, all of these UK type territories were talking about all these different stars, and then we were getting kind of glimpses of them when it came to ROH when they did like different branded shows. We were getting a little taste of these things, but nothing really major. Some of them might have appeared in different places, but you had to really be paying attention to wrestling to know who these people were. But we definitely were introduced to a guy named Walter. And during this rest of this time, he will be known as Walter. And I'm going to say Walter for a reason because Walter is a little bit bigger than Gunther. Gunther lost weight. And I think when he lost weight, he lost Walter. But it's okay. So that's why I'm going to refer to him as Walter. Don't look at me like that. Um, but I'm gonna ask y'all straight off the bat, Brett. Before we get to the championship, before we get to how the belt looks, who was the most influential, or who had the most influential reign as the NXT UK champion? And tell me why. hmm
Do you really need
I'm
to
gonna come
ask
right
that
after.
question?
Yep, because that's gonna lead into why I'm gonna say I said Gunther and Walter are two different people, and it's not because of their weight. I'm gonna tell you why. But who was the most influential?
Go ahead,
Hmm.
take it away, Justin. I know who you're gonna say. Go ahead.
Go ahead, say it, Justin.
I say it's Walter. Easy. I just say like, come on, the most dominant NXT UK WWE United Kingdom champion of all time. Like in the short history of that belt, like he was that champion. Like he was just dominant, and then not even just dominant, like literally putting on some of like the best matches. Like I've watched a lot of Walter matches in the last couple of days, and man, him and Pete Dunne from Takeover New York when he won the championship. Uh, the 45-minute match with Tyler Bate at Takeover Cardiff.
I just
Like
got
the
finished watching it.
matches,
Yep.
that was really really good. And then
Like,
the two matches with Ilya Dragunov, like that you can't. What else can I say about that? Especially the empty arena match. Let us say you hear literally bones and meat just in an empty arena, and like them hits was really hitting hard. Like I've never like seen two men in a professional wrestling ring outside of maybe like a New Japan match every now and then. Like they was in there murdering each other. Like there's no other way to say it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Hugh, who you saying?
just to be different, Pete Dunne.
Okay.
That was my
Pete Dunne was
second
my
pick
guy.
too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
For
I'm
a
gonna
guy,
say this: Pete
for a guy
Dunne.
of his size to do what he was doing at that point in time, why not, bro? Let's go ahead. But to be honest, Walter has it hands down.
Okay. And here's the thing. Here's the caveat, right? And the reason I'm saying Walter and Gunther are two different people because in the in I don't want to call it indie because I don't know the level of what each promotion was in that area in that space, and to be not to be sound like I'm downgrading it, but in these different wrestling territories that they had, Walter was such a big name. Pete Dunne had proved what an NXT UK champion should be. Pete Dunne had shown on Raw, SmackDown, no matter where he was, it was a big deal when he was there, right? And this is the guy that is carrying this brand on his back. Yeah, we can talk about Rhea Ripley and all the different women as well, but remember, he was getting the main roster exposure early on. So when Walter came from being this dominant force, whether it be in Progress, whether it be in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, no matter where he was, it was a presence, right? So when he came and stood face to face with Pete Dunne, it felt like the foundation had been shaken. And if it wasn't for Walter's time there, we would not be praising Gunther because Gunther is the evolution of Walter. Everybody hated the name change, but this was just the evolution of a influential champion, a person that would not only say, "I see your 600-day reign, your 685-day reign. I'm going to reign for 870. I'm going to make people pay attention to this because I'm going to be this unstoppable force. I'm going to draw you into the match. I'm going to make sure you pay attention to what's happening because I'm going to show you what UK style wrestling is. And I'm going to show you that we are a global force, that you're going to be dying to see me in 2024 and to see what I'm going to do with this world title now. To see how I can be still telling these same stories, but evolving these stories. Because did you not feel like Damian Priest was going to win the first time they wrestled until Finn Balor came and interfered? Did you not feel that he was frustrated that Finn Balor has now interfered and he wanted to prove himself, right? Because we can count on our hand how many times Walter was actually pinned, period. So there is no other dominant champion in WWE that you can actually say, I know who has pinned him 100% hands down. Unlike other people, you can say, I can tell you who they beat. See the difference? That's why I say he is the most influential because he's still going. If it wasn't for this NXT UK brand, we probably would not be so vested in our World Heavyweight Champion. And
Makes
that brings
sense.
me to the point. What was your reaction when you saw Gunther finally getting dethroned, we're going to say Walter getting dethroned by Ilyanov? And it took 2 matches for that to happen. What was your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, I didn't watch it live, let us say,
Okay.
because during that time, like I was kind of like in and out of wrestling, like during the pandemic time, because it just didn't really like hit the same. Like there wasn't no crowd there, and then but it was certain matches that I definitely went back and watched, and that was one of them. And then like knowing how dominant Walter was, and then how hard Ilya Dragunov fought, like he literally like slayed a dragon. Like he threw every single thing at him that he possibly could, and it took him 2 tries, but he finally slayed the beast, and it felt earned. Like it didn't feel like just like a token win, or like he just like, I'll be just going to feed you to this person and then call it a day. Like no, that felt like legit earned. Like him standing over him like with his foot up, fist raised, holding the championship, like that was a earned moment.
Now, we just got to address this one comment before Hugh goes in. The Soul Session says, I had the honor of interviewing past NXT UK wrestlers such as Mark Andrews, Flash Morgan Webster, Danny Luna, Wild Boar, and more. It was truly special place and made an impact upon UK wrestling. Now, I'm going to ask this question. Did it make an impact on UK wrestling or wrestling as a whole? Because some of those names, we still are celebrating today. We're still talking about to this day because of the work that they did in the UK. So I'm just going to say, you think it was more than just the UK wrestling, or did they make that impact that we're feeling today?
Hmm.
Hugh,
Interesting.
I know I've recommended a lot of matches to you, right?
hmm
And I say anything with Pete Dunne because I'm a Pete Dunne fan. But my guys, do you remember how sad I
hmm
was the first time he didn't win?
hmm
And I said nobody. I felt some kind of way. I said that was his moment. He didn't win. But then when he got the rematch, I said, please don't kill this man. And like Justin said, he was days. I think he slapped his chest in because that was the one he was just sitting there with the title like this, and his
Yeah,
whole chest was red. He had the
And say
scar on his
all this
forehead.
was red. I think
He
he was
in the
bleeding in the
ring.
second
he
match.
was
Yeah, I
Yes,
think he was
bleeding.
bleeding on his eye.
Yep.
but we got to see how Gunther's legacy and his dominance, it took the second time. It took Ilyanov to just fight him because that really wasn't a wrestling. They were fighting. There was a fight. That's just call it what it is, right? And to see that for another branch championship, not that I'm downgrading any other world title match or any other thing, but to see that they put that much heart and soul into it, and for it to be during a time when we were just looking for content to watch, we were just watching stuff because you made a good point. It was during pandemic, and it was like, oh, oh, that's 870 days gone. Good, he took them down. Not to mention they have history in the scenes, on the UK scene. So I think that helped. But Hugh, would you have rather seen Pete Dunne get it back, or did you want to see Ilyanov take it?
Of course, I would always say I wanted to see Pete Dunne, but to be honest, the story that they told, like you said, they had history in UK. They told a phenomenal story, and it was kind of like Beowulf slaying a dragon, like you said earlier. So that feud. It made sense. Nobody else could have really. No other two people could have put a feud together like that and made it feel as important as it did at that point in time.
Plus, I don't think anybody like I'm saying 'cause I didn't see much of Walter like pre WWE NXT, but like I don't he a lot of times he didn't feel unbeatable. Like he felt like he was the final boss before The Rock was. Like
Final boss.
before like Roman Reigns was like turned into tribal chief, like Walter like was literally like the final boss. Like even when he transitioned over to the main roster, like he was still I think the only person that ever beat him was Ilya Dragunov, and then I want to say it was Braun Breaker that beat him too, if I'm not
Hmm.
Hmm.
mistaken. So like a person that, like his entire run only lost to two people. Like that's aura right there.
Too
And
bad we can't see it again anytime soon.
and when you look at this, right, we got Tyler Bate, first champion, probably one of the youngest champions that WWE has had. Pete Dunne, the bruiserweight. Walter, the ring general, the leader of Imperial. The Mad Dragon Ilyanov with his red contacts, right? It was vacated due to an injury. And then Tyler Bate back on the scene. He got it. He gets the belt back, right? And that's pretty much with his belt lasted for its time frame from its inception in 2017 when it was first won till 22. We only had a who's who of UK talent in this picture. And like I said, he made you pay attention to it, but Gunther defined it. But it's also defined by the man that dethroned the man that defined it, right? And it's hard to say when you think back to the NXT UK, these four men, any combination of these matches are definitely rewatchable and they stand the test of time, right?
Yep.
If NXT UK had stuck around, do you think we would be seeing multi-time for these guys, or that was enough for them to move on to what they're doing now?
That's a really good question.
It's
And
hard
the
to
reason
say,
I'm
Because
man.
I
saying it
would have
because
loved
remember
to
it
see him
was
stick around, but I think the pandemic really hurt NXT UK
mhm.
because a lot of people like I think like visa issues and all that. Because yeah, let's say that pandemic really hurt NXT UK. I
But
think
see,
they'd
and the
still be
thing is,
around.
when you think about it, Finn Balor, we didn't think that we would see Finn Balor as NXT champion again, but he went back for another run. So I don't know if we would be saying these same people or would we be saying no, they moved on because Gunther definitely had to become Gunther and move on. Pete Dunne probably really hasn't seen that success level.
Not
He's
yet.
been in the limelight, but he hasn't seen that success level thus far. And he's had plenty of opportunities for the NXT World Title. He's had opportunities for Tag Team Gold. Of course, he was NXT Tag Champ, but he had plenty of opportunity for these other ones. Tyler Bate is going to keep finding success, whether it be in a tag team or a singles championship. But I don't know if Elianov would have. I think he might have been that because remember we had this discussion about him in NXT. Everybody's like, "Oh,
Hmm.
he's coming to the main roster." I was like, "He got so much more to do. Let him stay there." He had to stay there to win that title, and now unfortunately he got hurt. I think that if he didn't get hurt, we would have seen him by now versus Gunther because that's what everybody wanted.
So
Because we
that's what
all
I'm waiting
thinking
for
like,
right there.
yeah, we all like, oh, he's going to be the one to dethrone him again. But of course, injury happens. But anyway, enough about that, right?
Hmm.
Hugh, do you remember what happened to the title? Um, while Gunther had it.
No, enlighten me.
Okay, so Gunther actually won this championship, right? And this was the
Uh-huh.
first version of it, right? This is
Right.
V1, very similar to the women. And look who's side plates over here, Pete Dunne. They just look like they belong, don't they? Um, of course, I had to put Pete Dunne on this, and because he's the one that really made you pay attention to find it. Same thing about the one. Only difference is it doesn't say women's here. It just says this regular crest. Almost the same design as the other one. WWE on the side has a plain tip, just like everything else. The other ones, but very reminiscent of the logo network logo belt. All the stones are in the same place. See the red stones here? Red
I
stone
see
at
it.
the
I
point.
see it.
You see it at the point? See the red stones up there. But during his run, they said, "Oh, we're getting new belts." And I always get excited when they say new belts, right? And then what happens, Justin? Show 'em what happens.
No, I
Oh
have
no, I
the
thought you had. Oh,
proper I have the proper one. I don't
He
like the
said the
one with the
proper.
NXT logo on it.
then we get this one. If you go back and watch a bonus episode of Championship Culture when it was called Unboxing Happiness, this is one of the belts that was unboxed. The only difference, and you might say, Brandon, that is insane that you literally have the same belt twice. And it is, but the only difference is it just says NXT down the middle. Now, see that silver logo in the middle for the WWE? I
Hmm.
always felt like, why was that there? When they put the NXT, I said, okay, that makes more sense, right? I felt like, and you put the WWE logo,
Mhm.
your side plates, because you wanted the
Yeah,
jewelry.
I didn't. No,
But actually, it
I
doesn't
didn't
look
buy
like.
anyone.
Yeah, I kept the NXT ones on there. It had red, but Hugh, did the logo really make a difference in these two belts?
To be honest, I would say the WWE logo made more sense because if you think about it from a marketing perspective, WWE is your major brand as a whole, right? You want to promote your major brand. You can have the side plates with NXT. You can have the representation elsewhere, but at the end of the day, it's all under the WWE tree, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do like that NXT logo on that championship.
Because the
Is
gold
that's
flow
gold?
doesn't.
Is
Yeah, it's
gold?
gold.
But I would say honestly, I would like it for it to be silver.
See,
The
Just
and
NXT to
for the
be
same,
silver.
I'll
for
say
the for
now
the same
if they would have
for the
made the NXT logo silver on that, then I'd like it a little bit
yeah.
more. But like just
It
because the
just
silver pops a little bit on like when it's surrounded by
absolutely,
all this gold, like
absolutely.
even with the red shield. I'd say the silver just definitely makes it pop a little bit more. I'd say if they would have made the NXT logo silver, I'd like it a lot more. I'm gonna say, but that's why I like the original a lot better.
But they do have WWE in the middle of the X. Can you see it?
It's too small.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
It ain't silver though.
It is very small. It
Right.
is very
But
small.
that's the
But
first thing. Like, look, if you look at that title, it's like boom, it's right in your face. Look, all right, you already know what promotion you're dealing with. It's WWE. You see what I'm saying? As opposed to the
mhm.
NXT, it's like, all right, we get it, but what if nobody watches NXT? What's that? Nobody's paying attention to that small WWE logo in the middle. You see what I'm saying? As
Mhm.
opposed to like if I'm just a casual watcher and I see that WWE logo, I'm like, all right, well, I'm invested automatically because I know WWE is the major brand in wrestling right now or in general, right? It just makes
I'm gonna
sense
bust
from
your bubble,
a
and
marketing perspective for me.
I'm gonna debunk your theory with one thing, and I can't
Hmm.
get to
Oh,
it because it's in the case. It's in the case. I'm gonna debunk your theory about that. What is all the NXT belts focus?
What you mean?
all of the belts, their focus is all on NXT. NXT is front
Hmm.
and center on the new belts. Remember, it always was
Okay.
across. The focal point of their belts has always been NXT. That's the only reason I agree with them changing it because, like you said, for that reason, the focal point of this is WWE. And you're saying, what is that? What is the United Kingdom Championship? But on the version that they say, Gunther has it, now the focus is the NXT title. See the difference? Unlike the other ones on the world titles, remember, NXT was a cross with the big X in the middle. That's the focal point. This focal point on this is NXT for the
Okay.
branding purpose. Because they
Well,
kind
you
of
know what?
made their belts.
No, go ahead.
No, for NXT, they kind of wanted. It looked like they tried to make the focal point of NXT than WWE because we had the network logo that was clearly Raw, SmackDown because of the strap, or because it was behind the network logo. This was just had to have its own unique brand and identity because every NXT belt in the center was NXT.
Let me keep it uniform. But it does, if you think about it, having the WWE logo first, like I said, it's a bigger brand, is well known. That put more eyes on the product right off top because that's when it first starts. You want those eyes coming to your product, right? To get that exposure, right?
Hmm.
So then once you're a little bit established, you can go ahead and throw that NXT up there as your main plate, and that'll be look, that'll basically give more branding to the actual brand. You know what I'm saying? Like it'll give more exposure to that brand, more notoriety to that brand. So now you look at it like boom, that's NXT. You know exactly what it is. Oh, that's a part of WWE. You see what I'm saying? So on the flip side, it does kind of make sense since you kind of put it that way. But yeah,
Now, two comments we got to address. One,
still should be
please
sorry.
drop your soul session. I was gonna say drop your the link for all of your socials in the comments so everybody can see it, and we'll definitely promote it because I would definitely like to check that out and hear those interviews because I'm always interested to learn more about the things that we really didn't have as much exposure to. And Orlando says, "What is your favorite NXT champion? Do you mean championship or my favorite NXT champion, like as in the wrestler?" Um, While we
I
wait for that
think
to clarify, let's NXT champion.
Like
like
of all of
NXT
NXT or
overall
like
or UK.
Well, let's give him the one for UK, then we're gonna give him the one for NXT. And if he
Yeah, we
says
give them both.
championship, we can answer that. We're gonna give you all of them. Justin, who's your favorite NXT UK champion?
men or women.
Um, Give me male and female.
Female Tony Storm. That, like that's a layup right there. And then
Okay.
male Pete Dunne
Okay.
because
Here.
I felt like he wore this championship the best. Like I love Walter, and he had an extremely dominant and influential run. But I think the person that absolutely looked the absolute best with this was Pete Dunne, especially with the entrance. And I loved his theme song at the time. Like his theme song used to really hit. And doing the
All
entrance,
right.
like I don't know how he had this joint in his mouth, like carrying like
And did
15
it.
pounds of gold with his teeth. Like he got the. I need to go to his dentist.
Facts.
All right, Hugh. Who say you favorite NXT UK male champion or female champion?
I usually try to be different, but I gotta agree with Justin, Pete Dunne, and Tony Storm. At the time, Tony Storm, I knew who she was. Um, she made that title seem important to me. Rhea Ripley at that time, we didn't really know who she was. For me anyway, I didn't really know who she was. So personally, I was like, look, I was more invested in Tony Storm. Though I liked her whole gimmick, the punk rock star gimmick. She made it look good, and she made it work. Pete Dunne, same reasons. I love technical wrestlers. Um, Overall, like the submissions that for a little guy, that's the major thing for me. He was a little guy, and he was able to hang with the big guys, right? And he was able to go out every night and defend that championship and come out victorious. That's the thing for me with Pete Dunne. He was always able to come out on top, whether he's choking somebody out or whether he used his move. You know what I'm saying? Like his finisher. Like he was always able to come out on top. So that's the thing for me with Pete Dunne, because I'm a little dude. So, well, I was a smaller
You
dude
can
at that time, but I got a little
you can
height to me
connect
So
now.
he
with
do
it.
got a sick
Yeah,
finisher. And say he
he
never
does.
had bad matches either.
He doesn't. He doesn't have bad matches. That's why I'm very upset that he's not being utilized the proper way right now.
Mm.
But hey,
So I'm gonna tell
hopefully
you
his time will come.
my favorite NXT UK champion is none other than Ilya. And
Of course.
you probably know why. He made me pay attention more to NXT UK. The first time I was
Hmm.
like, "Who is this guy? And why is he so good?" The 40.
That's
That's why I was upset at WrestleMania that we didn't get the
Then that
40.
camera zoom in.
Um, I don't know. It was just something about his style and I wish we get more gear because I feel like he wears the crap out of the same gear for like 18 months and then he changes it. But I don't know what it was about Ilya. Just something about him. I felt like I was like, oh, this is great. And for the same thing, like I love Rhea, and I was one of the few people that probably was like, "Oh, she's going to be it. She's it." And then when she came to NXT, I was like, "Oh, I hated the stuff they did with Charlotte, but I understand why." Um, but that's the reason I'm not going to say that because Kylie Ray made me pay attention to her. Like it really after she beat Tony Storm because I felt like I was like Tony Storm's unbeatable. She's just great, and it was like, oh, she beat her. And that's why I'm kind of disappointed in the whole Alba Fire again, making the witches and stuff like that, because that they made me pay attention more to NXT UK. I felt myself going to find them more when I love when a wrestler can captivate my attention, kind of like how Julia is now. I find myself going down Julia rabbit holes because I'm captivated by it. And as far as my favorite NXT wrestler, male, it's my man Shinsuke. Female, who's my favorite
Bailey.
NXT? Thank you.
Bailey.
I want to say Oscar, but I'm gonna go with Bailey because my lady Bailey.
Mm,
All right, who
mm.
who you got for NXT, male or female? He's thinking. He's thinking. He's
You know
thinking.
I'm about to see some off the wall stuff.
You can
But
say,
no, I'm gonna go Oscar for the
uh huh.
ladies. No, scratch that. I'm going EO.
Oh, you got
I'm
yeah?
going EO.
Hmm?
Yeah, I'm
I
going
didn't
EO.
expect
I say we
that
take those.
because you
Yeah.
almost say Kyrie. I was this close to saying Kyrie
Yeah.
Sane because I love that pirate run. I don't know that May Young Classic, the pirate run, her and Shada. I just loved
I
every
remember her
moment of.
entrance, like her first entrance with the championship had coming out the treasure chest. Like that was sick right
Yes,
there.
and that insane elbow. Something about how she like flips her leg sideways to do the elbow. I'm like, why
Yeah, it
look
hits it
so
perfect every time though.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Right.
So but I gotta stick with my Bailey. All right, who's your male,
But
Hugh?
you said Shinsuke already, so I'm about to go Trick Willie. So I don't even stop. No, actually, I'm gonna go
Oh
Dragon
yeah,
off.
man.
Yeah, I
I'm
like
gonna go
it.
Dragon off just because like he's able to have a great match with everybody. To
Man,
be
he
honest,
said
literally.
Orlando said Pete Dunne is only 5'10", and he
And
said before we get to you, Justin, um, he said his favorite. Orlando said his favorite NXT champion is Cross, as in Karrion Cross.
Hmm.
He did have the sick. He
Yeah.
had a sick. Let me just say this:
At that point in time, yeah, he
NXT
did.
has the best entrances. They put so much emphasis on the entrances and telling the story. And nowadays, they debut the women leaps and bounds beyond what they do for the men. The men is just like, hey, I'm here. The women, they give them video packages. They give them like the entrance feel like it's a major deal. And I just remember seeing, and he said his
oh,
he's his favorite chat. Wait a minute, is it Cross or is it Black? Because you said Alistair Black.
I think he
Um,
said Cross was his favorite like NXT wrestler. I don't know. Like, it popped up for like a second, but
yeah,
Aleister
but
Black is favorite
Alistair
champion.
Black. Now
His
he
favorite
did Triple
champion.
H.
Oh yeah, he did say. Oh, you right.
Yeah, Triple H is his that's Triple H's favorite wrestler because he definitely about on everything metal. He said, "You got metal tattoos, you have a metal entrance, metal music, just play it all metal." Um, Now, in
I
order
know
to
this
hear my
isn't.
favorite NXT champion, you got to go watch season 1 of the
The North
underrated
American.
belt. Yeah, the North American. That's actually one of my favorite championships. But it was show in season 1 under the playlist championship culture on youtube.com/wrestling realm. season 1 of Championship Culture called The Underrated Belt, and it focuses all on NXT North American Champion. We might have to update that because there's been a few others, but not that
Yep,
many. I'm gonna just hit at that. Justin,
it's a lot of good
Yes,
ones.
who
sir.
is your favorite NXT champion, male and female?
Bailey obviously is the female one. Like, come on now. Like, that's my wife right there. I love me some Bailey. Always
Whoa,
have.
y'all gonna have to fight.
Oh,
We ain't gotta fight. We can be in agreement. I say that woman has had my heart since 2014 when I got the WWE Network and I discovered her. And, like, I love that woman. And then she can go, like, dude, like
Right, right.
she was literally like one of the best wrestlers and one of the best storytellers at NXT at the time. Like that first takeover match with her and Sasha Banks, still like probably
Classic.
top 5 greatest women's matches of all time. Like I'll stand on that one too. And then champion, Adam Cole, man.
Okay.
Like Adam Cole in the Undisputed Era, like that was a magical time in NXT. Like, yeah, you had, Nakamura, and that was a close second because I was there when he won the championship from Samoa Joe in Brooklyn too. Like, and Nakamura in 2016, like he was different. But Adam Cole in Undisputed Era, like that was a time right there. Like I think that was NXT at its highest point.
and let
Yeah,
me say
so
this:
yeah,
people be
Adam.
like, "Oh, you didn't pick Keith Lee." Keith Lee needed more time in
Mm-hmm.
NXT.
Because
Adam
he
Cole,
won the NXT title and he was like on Raw like what, like a month later,
Yeah,
after he
and the
dropped
next
his
thing you
red
know he
belt.
was gone. So I'm saying I
right.
love Keith Lee. Like Keith Lee, like big black dude flying around doing incredible feats of strength and tossing people, and like that man was different.
Yeah,
And even when you think back to Seth Rollins, Big E, they were products of no, we need you on the main roster. Sami Zayn, same thing. Kevin Owens, we need you on it felt like those earlier NXT champions, no, we need you on the main roster. They kind of slowed down when they got to Finn, Shinsuke, Bobby Roode. We can say Drew McIntyre, he got hurt, but then he never came back. Then we started getting the Aleister Blacks, the Andrade, um, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. We started getting these guys that had time to stay and do things in NXT. So
Yeah,
that's
because
what we
if you
go.
remember, like it was almost like a tradition. Like once you had your reign as the NXT champion, you would lose, and then probably like maybe like a month or two later, like you'll probably have like one more match for like your send off match, and the next thing you know, you're on the main roster. Like that used to be the pattern. And then like
Mhm.
right after Drew McIntyre, like that was probably like the last one that will fall under that. Because remember, like Johnny Gargano, Aleister Black, Andrade, like they all stayed.
Because
right.
they had more to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I loved about it. And even when you think about the North American Championship, and I know we're supposed to be talking about the UK, but it's good that we have these belt discussions. Um, Dragon Lee, I feel like he was a transitional champion. Adam Cole was the first champion to establish it. So I get where that's coming from. But man, Orlando, we might have to have a conversation. As much as I like Shinsuke, he is not
Yeah,
my favorite IC champion. And I think we got to break the IC champion into eras because we can almost say everybody has a story. Each strap, which one is the favorite? Because that's a long
Now,
list
for you
to
to say
say. Just,
IWGP Intercontinental Champion, like, all right, like now you're cooking right
then
there.
yes, I'm
Mm.
agreeing with you 100%. IWGP US champ, I mean IWGP Intercontinental champion, favorite and probably the greatest IC champion in Shinsuke Nakamura. Um, I'm gonna just say that. But when it comes to NXT UK, I'm happy that it was around. I wish it would have stuck around more. I'm gonna stick to my guns when I said about the European title. If that would have been the secondary title, that would have been a great uh, paying homage to a championship. And yeah, we brought back the cruiserweight title. It didn't have its same feeling as it did in the WCW days, and but it was in worth a try, right? I think in this era, if we had NXT UK under this regime, it would be thriving as the fourth brand. I think branding it as NXT and then UK kind of hurts it because NXT has its own identity. UK should
hmm
have had its own identity of something else. Just like Ross and SmackDown have their own identity, NXT has its own. Give UK something else because then I feel like it'll become a thing where it's like, oh, then we got NXT this, we got NXT that. And I'm all for Brandon, but give it a different identity.
I mean, technically, it was the developmental at that time, right? I don't see it as
Yep.
developmental now. So why not brand it all together as NXT? And you could have it in different sectors, right? Because the end goal is for those superstars to end up on the main roster, right?
hmm To get them ready
So I
for that
mean,
roster.
yeah,
And then we got a fluid that they don't have to. What you did there translates here. Not what
yeah.
you did there, but I need you to do this here. And that's kind of like what we saw in where the name changes was becoming almost like a so we're just gonna forget that they were okay. We're gonna forget that Kylie Ray was Alba Fyre was Kylie Ray? Okay. All right, sure. But we still got Pete Dunne. Oh never mind, we had Butch. Let me take that back. We just
Don't
gonna call him
disrespect my
Butch.
man, so
God, that
don't
was the
disrespect my
worst
man.
couple little.
It was, wasn't it?
I
Glad
made you
that man's
remember it.
gone. I'm gonna just leave it at that. Not to say.
It made you remember. Pete Dunne was known as Butch. Um, Brother Hugh. Brother Hugh.
Yeah. What's up?
Oh, okay, I didn't hear
Oh, I was looking at you like
you.
I'm waiting for him to talk.
The last thing I want to ask you, right? And this is for you and Justin.
Hmm.
Whenever a brand dissolves, and you call our Red Dam the belt killer, right?
Hmm.
NXT became the belt killer of NXT UK, right? When we talk
Right.
about the designs of some of these belts, when they merged these brands together, was that a missed opportunity for us not to get new belts?
I mean, for you, of course, you're gonna say yes.
I say
I
because
mean,
you
I
got the
don't.
whole museum on you, so like, yeah, that's just another thing on the shelf.
Right.
All
I
right, but
mean,
then
at that point in time, I would say no because the major brand between those two was NXT 2.0, right? So why
okay,
not just keep that same title? That's that era at that point in time. Don't change that title until you move into another a new era, right? That's what
hmm
it makes sense for to me to keep that same title, especially since Braun Breaker or Mandy Rose they already had those titles anyway. You see what I'm saying? And NXT, like you said, even though they were still under and even though they're still in both NXT UK seemed like it was a little bit it wasn't really on the same level as NXT because NXT UK seemed like it was like the brand under NXT.
NXT.
You saying it was the
Okay,
sub brand. So in that case, if you look at it that way, I would say, look, yeah, it it wasn't a missed opportunity. It just made sense to keep what you already had because of the type of brand that you had right at that point in time, which was 2.0, that era.
so did the right person win each of those championships? And we can talk about Braun Breaker. We can talk about Mandy Rose and Pretty Deadly. You already said Mandy Rose was the right one to win, and you gave your reasons why. But was
Hmm.
Braun Breaker the right person to win?
I
He was the
mean,
future.
yeah, yeah. Number one, he's the future. Number two, that brand is dissolving. You're not gonna push Tyler Bate over Braun Breaker. Let's be honest.
Now
No,
I'm gonna throw
no disrespect to Tyler Bate. You know what I mean? Like he's good, but
if Ilyanov
uh,
never got hurt, would you still be saying the same thing?
Mm.
I don't know. I mean,
That's
That
I
would
hard
have
to
think
been a
tell, right?
match, though.
yeah, I think Braun still gets it though, just because of his name.
Okay.
To be honest,
And we did eventually get
his
those type of
lineage.
matchups. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Because it was establishing Braun Breaker, establishing what the 2.0 era was to be,
family.
and saying bye to this, but also still saying we're gonna move forward with this portion of it. Justin, would you have changed anything about NXT UK?
I hate to see it go, but I'm glad it came and it had its time. So, like, got introduced to a whole like new crop of professional wrestlers that we had never seen as like American fans or haven't had as much exposure to it, I should say. Um, some of the best belts, I would have loved to seen it continue, but like, I mean, things have its time and things come and go. So, I mean, and plus, you know, you had to, if you were closing the doors on that brand and reintegrating everything into American NXT, I mean, it was the right moves to like keep the belts on like Braun Breaker and Mandy Rose and then I guess anybody that you probably weren't going to make like too much of a mainstay on American NXT television, then it was yeah, they made the right moves and who they picked as the champions.
Do you think we eventually get something like an NXT UK again,
What happened to Europe? That was supposed to be
or
a thing, wasn't it?
NXT Japan, Europe, whatever? Do we get that again?
I think we do. I think we get a. So I think we get another brand in the global expansion because there's no. They keep going back to these international spaces,
Hmm.
and I think it's a thing where we can get a. You know how, and I don't want to sound funny or date myself and say what it is. You know how it was told WWE was one of the solid partners for like ECW. We saw with
Hmm.
OVW, even Evolve. I think we
Yeah.
get one of those type situations because we had a WWE ID, but now we start to see it on a different scale where there's a performance center based out of here, and then we're gonna run shows out of here to start, and then it becomes its own brand in that way because anybody can be WWE ID'd, but what if you got enough in this area and now you're gonna filter it to here. Because if you got all this talent, why not utilize it? Or what's wrong with talent flying over? Because like, is Australia big enough to have that? Probably. But has Australia pumped out enough people that we can say could have its own brand? Because if you took all the Australian people and took them back like Rhea Ripley, Buddy Matthews, um what's his name? What's his name?
Bronson,
What's his name?
Bronson Reed's from Australia,
Bronson
right?
and
Nia
what's
Jax.
his name? The Grayson Waller effects. You know what I mean? Grayson Waller effect. If
Yeah.
you, I'm just saying, if you took all of them and took them back, imagine if they were ID there and they had their own brand and they could hone in their craft there. I think that would be kind of cool to see. But as long as it's under a brand of WWE, like how we have Raw, WWE SmackDown, WWE NXT, WWE Australia, whatever it's going to be called, I think we have it for those areas.
Hmm.
Just a thought. Um, but
Do
I
you
think
think
that
they
time here.
necessarily now that they have the WWE ID program? Do you think they necessarily need to have like a whole nother like NXT brand or some sort of like developmental thing? Because now you are working with all like these independent promotions. So I mean, I
It's
really ain't no need for them to have a whole nother brand if like they're keeping their eyes on like, and then I don't know if they're like supporting them too with anything like I don't know like finances or whatever, but like they're definitely like using all the other like independent promotions to scout talent.
so I know
Yeah.
Cody Rhodes Wrestling School has been identified as one of those trading places type of deal. But
Hmm.
here's my thought pattern. Triple H is clearly ultimate student of the game. He's going back to the past and trying to do what worked there, right? The reason the NWA was so successful for so many years, they had territories. And then when the champion came, it was a big deal. But also, you had champions for each territory. You can go back and look at the NWA Television Heavyweight Championship and see that belt design was for this area, this area, this area. It had just had a different name. So when your NWA World Champion came to that area, it felt like a big deal. Imagine a thing where, let's just say Texas, there are people being ID'd and they having a wrestling show at Booker T's Reality of Wrestling. But now here comes Intercontinental Champion Braun Breaker. Holy crap, he's the main event. Let's say you have something in Atlanta under such and such wrestling school, and they're putting on a show, and here comes WWE Women's United States Champion Chelsea Green. Imagine how big of a deal that would be. Or you have something in Puerto Rico. Here comes WWE tag team champions such and such to come wrestle there. It's kind of like taking back to like territory days, like, yeah, you're gonna have your champions, but when your major champion comes, it's a big deal. So I'm just thinking about that type of thing. Um, so the wrestling chick said, no, ID should feed NXT. So the ID program should feed to NXT. But I guess I'm gonna pose a question: would you want the ID program to kind of filter international to NXT type of brand? Is that what you were saying here?
Yeah,
Or did you need
for the
you
most
don't
part,
need a
yeah.
brand if you have basically because I'm gonna get my
Well,
reps in
that
other
was the question.
places.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
And see
honestly, I don't even think you need that because, like he said, they are working with other, promotions right now. The GCWs and there was what was the Finn Balor and
House of
Jay
Glory.
Gargano went over.
Oh, they went to
Jay overseas, yeah. They went overseas,
but
and yeah, they went back home. They went, so it's like they're going through these independent promotions now. So you probably won't even need that specific location like Australia or whatever. Because like you said, there might not be enough legitimate talent to have an actual successful NXT Australia at that, you know what I'm saying, at that point in time. So it kind of makes sense for you to gain more exposure for these ID prospects and for whoever else your, I guess, developmental brand in NXT. I kind of see it as a third brand now with the transfer portal, but it kind of makes sense to have them just all filtered throughout the indie scene. So that way you can still they can get their reps, they can get their exposure, and who knows, maybe hey man,
And plus,
maybe they can
another
get the
thing you
training that
gotta
they need.
remember,
To
it's
be honest
not.
with
It's on and now. There's another second major promotion out there in the world because in the time NXT UK was coming up, that's when like because WWE already had like pretty much like a lot of the talent that they wanted, but then AEW had came into the picture, so maybe people might want to also like try their hand and go to AEW as well. So like there's a lot more options as far as like a major like televised like wrestling promotion to be to get some exposure. So really
and
is as much as I would love for the to be another like international like NXT or like an international brand, I mean, you kind of really don't need it anymore. I'd say it served its purpose at the time for sure.
that it definitely
you.
did.
Yeah,
And
probably one of the biggest
we
regions at the time.
yeah, I was gonna say we'll probably be talking about NXT UK because the more we see these champions make history, we go back and look at how did we get to here. And you don't get Rhea Ripley without NXT UK. Some may argue you don't get Rhea Ripley without the Mae Young Classic. You don't get Timeless Tony Storm without NXT UK. You don't get Alba Fire being part of the Witches without the things that happen in NXT. Uh, you don't get a pretty strong boy that they kept calling Tyler Bate without understanding that he was the first. And I think we're going to start hearing certain things like that because they don't discredit what they've done before they got to this point. I think that they're
That is true.
just going to start saying it to get people to go back and watch because it's all about clicks and it's all about social media. They can start posting stuff when, let's say, Ilyanov come back. Imagine what his video package is going to be. What if they start sliding in the video packages that he dethroned Gunther for the NXT UK Championship? What if they start saying that he dethroned Carmelo Hayes? You know what I mean? Like, what if they just start doing those type of things to make you realize, let me go back and watch this because it's all about social media clips and it's all about the library and going back to watch. We're going to be seeing it on Netflix. Who's to say Netflix won't have a certain portion that say NXT UK? Go relive it because I'm pretty sure it's going to have things like the Cruiserweight Classic, the Mae Young Classic, or remembrance of how the WWE Network used to be. That's what I'm hoping for Netflix, and I hope we can still celebrate and still talking about this legacy of a brand that short time gave us some impactful memories. And with that being said, Justin,
Yes, sir.
tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at the Prototype 619, also on YouTube, also at the Prototype 619. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just see me around, say hey. All right. It's gone.
He said, see me around.
Hey, I'm friendly.
You?
They already know they can find me, man.
Did they know?
Enough said.
Did they know? They know? Okay.
Nah, it's on all social media platforms at HASTHE to the 3RD. Always check out Hazmat 3 photos too. Plan on hitting the scene again. Trying to hit some more of these wrestling promotions. Get back into the
Mm-hmm.
wrestling industry. So
Mm-hmm.
be on the lookout for that. And come springtime, back on the football field with the ladies, and I
The
might have another
Nighthawks.
team that I'm looking to. Right. So that's what I got
Cool.
going on,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where you can find me.
You know where they can find us?
Where can they find me?
On all social
Championship.
media platforms.
Good.
You know they can find us on all our social media platforms, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if you tune in every Tuesday, 8 p.m., you can find the next episode of Championship Culture. We want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Went a little longer than normal, but I feel like it was some good belt talk that happened. I'm always down to talk championship because they ain't behind me for no reason. You know why they're behind me? Because everybody has a story, and I can't wait to hear yours.
Peace.
Go over to Instagram and follow us at Championship Culture _. And don't forget, check out youtube.com/The Wrestling Room. Look for the playlist for Championship Culture. And remember, every belt has a story.